Welcome back to an all-new Bullet Point. It's shorter, it's faster, it's more concise. If Elon Musk invented a show, this would be it. You know who else is here? Judd Dunning. Say hello, Judd.
Hello, red, blue, magenta, Loftus Party Nation.
We are locked and loaded for bear. We got a great show for you tonight. We got 2 bullet points and a wild card. Holy cow. What's bullet point number 1?
Bullet point number 1, Michael Loftus, is the new brown and black shirts, Antifa and BLM, and civil destruction and unrest in America.
Whoo, and bullet point number 2?
Bullet point number 2, Ghislainemaxwell, in the eyes of the media and America.
Yeah, Ghislaine. What an interesting name. We're going to have to figure out what that means. But right now, you should probably look at this intro package. You got to tell me what's going on with
the book. Thank you very much. Great news. We are we actually got to come back and do a coda, Michael. We got to do a coda. You know what a coda is? You're a Led Zeppelin fan.
Coda is the Jedi Master from Star Wars. That's his little brother.
That's exactly right. Okay, moving on. No, coda. So we got to come back and we got to do. They let us do. We'd finished. I mean, there's 601 footnotes in this thing. It was a labor of love. They let us do a chapter on George Floyd and the riots and civil unrest. So we got to add an evergreening update because we actually wrote it originally, last year at Thanksgiving. So we did that. They're in the final typesetting. We've sold hundreds of copies, probably getting close to 1,000 right out the gate last week. And we're not even available till September. October 6th, you'll start seeing the media on the book. So thanks a lot, everybody.
You're going to be a New York Times bestseller and a Emmy Award-winning host of Bullet Points. I'm so happy. Yes, I'm so happy that you're here. Let's get into bullet point number 1.
Great. So we have continued day 53, 4, 5, wherever we're at in Portland. We've continued on this rampage of riots across the United States of America. Federal agents are using the DHS rules and ability to protect federal lands, to pull people off the streets. We're talking about a violation of individual rights, states' rights versus national rights right now. I mean, we're desperate to see what the next move is of this horrible deconstruction. So I think our discussion tonight, Michael, is who are these new, what is the brown shirts and Mussolini's black shirts and Hitler's brown shirts? What are they? Paramilitary organizations that were brought around, that were seen in the public eyes to be validated regardless of what they did, working upstream and illegally against the institution itself. That's where we are right now. We have this burning ember that we haven't stamped out from the George Floyd riots post-COVID.
Well, I would tell you it's got nothing to do with George Floyd. That was the spark that set the tinder. The media has been putting all of the kindling on top of this fire that they can, and then George Floyd's horrible murder was what lit the fuse. Black Lives Matter, as an organization, they're classically trained Marxist. That's what they're about. They're about ripping our society apart. Antifa are pretty much in the same boat. They're the anarchists. There's no two ways about it. They obviously, by their actions, don't care about black lives. They killed 15 black people just during the riots a few weeks ago. This is horrible. And here's the thing that the media has done. And this is what Hitler did. And this is really scary stuff. When you start talking about a certain group of people is responsible for everything that's wrong in your life, right? If you can go, I know why my life is horrible, those guys did it. And they're less than human, and if I attack them, and if I beat them up and rob them and kill them, that's okay because they're not really human. And that's where we are right now. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy with Antifa, because as they go to fight the man and commit crimes, well, then here comes the man to arrest them. And they go, see, I told you. So it's a closed loop. And the longer you let it go, without holding these people responsible for their actions. Okay, you decided you wanted to burn up a statue of an elk in Portland. Well, we know who you are, and now you have to go to jail and you have to pay for that statue to be fixed. That's the only way. Personal accountability. And really the media has been shameful. And the cops in Minneapolis were responsible for the death of George Floyd, and I would say the media is culpable for all of the deaths in the riots, all of the deaths. And they just found another dead body in Minneapolis that was burned up in a pawn shop. So the number's now like 16 or 17. It's horrible.
Yeah, we're at an end game of the Frankfurt Schools March on the West and all of our values. We're at the end game of the heroism of like 60s rebellion. You can go back to when we took church out of schools. You can go back to where we complete. There's a big plane flying by, which is amazing. It's when, we live in a society here in West Los Angeles. You can go back to a series of decisions and social policies that have led us to this war. And this is a war of moral secularism, moral absolutism. It's like whether or not like bad is bad and wrong is wrong. I mean, if you remember, one of the biggest things that came up in Trump is they said, hey, people on the border, rapists, criminals, it's bad. It's just simply bad. It's illegal and it's bad. Now we're at this point where what is illegal and what is bad? It's 2.0 from what we've seen at the border. There's a sliding balance of, oh, I'm with these rioters. I'm with the cause. This cause is getting extremely dangerous. And the media is hijacking this cause. And you know what? We're not putting out the fire. So Trump is actually starting to put out the fire. But look at what it says about our society. We're creeping toward more of a European, there's a war on patriotism and excellence, which includes moral excellence, right? And all of that is sliding backwards day by day by day. The longer we don't put out this flame, the more dangerous our culture is getting. And I'm not that older guy waxing philosophically. We're watching people slowly depart from values. And these guys at the tip of the spear, they're actually achieving everything they wanted to do.
If Antifa wants to march, they can march. If they want to go down Fifth Avenue and march and chant and sing songs, that's wonderful. Do that. This is America. But as soon as you start breaking into Louis Vuitton stores, and as soon as you start busting open heads of people that, oh my gosh, he was carrying an American flag, he must be the enemy, somebody beat his brains in. That's horrible. And you have to go to jail. If we don't have laws, we have nothing. That's the big thing with America. Is like we're all equal. We all have equal rights. We all have equal, freedoms. And once your crazy ideology starts infringing on mine, we got a problem.
Yeah, and I'll pivot this. So we'll move to our next bullet point. Look, I think that the way that we're addressing law and order, this is a test for America right now. This is a big test for us about law and order.
Well, look, who's not enforcing it. Judd, look who's not enforcing it. These are all big Democrat cities. Chicago, San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, from top to bottom, Democrat, Democrat, Democrat. So they can sit back and they do nothing. Ted Wheeler is a disgrace in Portland. Over 50 nights of attacking federal buildings, setting things on fire, looting stores, destroying property. And then he has the balls to say, I don't want the feds in here for law and order. What about the rights of the people in Portland? What about the people in Portland that have a business that just got burned up? They have rights too. And if you can't expect the police to come to your aid, well, then you gotta take matters into your own hands.
Yeah, and what about the 14 people that were killed in Chicago today as we're taping? Right? I mean, it's just if you look at the Chicago numbers, it's insane. If you look at the murders that have gone up in New York, it's insane. If you look at the activity and crime in Los Angeles, it's insane. This is communism and socialism 101. Deconstruct the underlying underpinnings of society. But now it's more about white elitists wanting to get their way in the fall, letting this run as long as they can. Shame on those people. Shame on the people that are letting the other people be affected. That's that you're talking about the people that are being affected, which I agree.
Yeah. And where is the full-throated condemnation of this from a bunch of Republicans who have been eerily quiet? and Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff and all these people who are supposed to be leaders on the left, they're like supervillains. It's like something out of a James Bond. They're just sitting back, let them destroy, let them. Nope. And I think Pelosi's quote was, well, people are going to do what they're going to do.
Right.
Sweet Jesus.
Yeah, yeah, it's had the same reaction. Well, this is a perfect pivot point for us to move to bullet point number 2. Thank you very much, producer. So, in the same theme of what we're talking about, you have this thing with Ghislainemaxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. So we're talking about how our society is turning another eye, turning the other cheek, turning the other eye. We have 3, turning the other cheek to moral and poor behavior. Now, if this goes up to the elite, now we're talking about pedophilia. We're talking about sex trafficking and human slavery. Right? I mean, if you really look into the case, dungeons, hijacked women, years are stolen into the elites for a loss of controlling their pleasures. You know, what is the essence of conservatism? It's restraint. It's an element of restraint. We all have desires, right? We know that there's greed in the world. We turn it into ambition, right? We know that there's attachment and pleasure. So we pivot with religion or family or stable things to take the container of man and be successful. That's America. America, we're rough and tumble people. We have this Judeo-Christian, this Judeo-Christian framing, these bookends. And this is the elites being involved in sex trafficking and human slavery and a number of other derelictions. And what's the media doing? They're completely sidestepping right now. It's minimized news. It's fourth page news, although I don't know if people actually read papers.
Well, the media has to do a little bit of coverage of this. They have to do a little bit. There's like a recipe for this, Judd. You do a little story and you put it on the page 4, page 5, page 6, just a little nothing. That way, when this thing breaks wide open and our friend Ghislainemaxwell starts naming names and coming out with videotapes, then the newspapers can go, oh, we covered this story. Look at all these articles that we've done. And they'll claim that they covered it. But this is a lot of heads are going to roll on this one. A lot. Now, granted, you got Jeffrey Epstein, who through shady business dealings and stock trades and yada, 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 he set himself up as this rich guy. So you've got pictures of him with Bill Gates. You got pictures of him with Clinton and with Trump. There's going to be pictures of these people with everybody. Those were the circles that they moved in. But here's what, you got Kevin Spacey right there. And that's the throne. That's the throne of the Queen of England. That's the real deal. Like, he shouldn't be sitting there. And he's so casual. Some people, there you go. Prince Andrew, I believe that is. Listen, he claims that he didn't know this girl. He's going down. And here's the thing. They love to show these pictures of like, oh, here's Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. Of course. Those were the circles he moved in. And when Trump found out that Epstein was into some shady business, doink, he kicked him out of the club and cut off communications. But then you got Bill Clinton, who I think is up into like 12, 13, some people say up to 20 different flights to the private island without Secret Service. He didn't want Secret Service there. So this
25 visits.
Yeah. It's a lot. And then I'll shut up, but I just want to say this. Everybody is like, look how many people have died from COVID. We've lost over 100,000 people have died from COVID. Do you know how many kids go missing in America each year? 800,000. 800,000 children go missing. And we're like, oh, we got to talk about COVID. Good Lord, get your priorities straight. Innocent kids and they're being scooped up and trafficked and no. I'm so glad we're doing this story.
Yeah, well, there's actually one penny, not to get too biblical, but there's one call for capital punishment in the good book, right? It was the millstone quote. Let those who harm our children be dragged down to the bottom of the sea with a millstone. Pretty harsh call from Jesus the socialist, as everybody likes to frame him, right? But kill those people. But I guess socialists would go communists. It's socialism moves to communists. So I'm sure he was on his way. Thank God. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So sacrilegious. But anyway, listen, that is the fine line. Is like it's abhorrent. I mean, some therapists call it soul murder, the detachment of shame that you create in people. And I mean, this was full on prison, shame, brainwashing, rape, sexual manipulation, stealing lives, and it went way up. If you look at the rooms and the tapes, there are a lot of people in one room getting down. There was some really heavy, dark stuff going there, and sadly, Alan Dershowitz went there too. I mean, there's some people that, I mean, I like Alan. I think he's a great intellectual, but you know what? If he is involved in that, it doesn't matter. Anybody that should be associated should go down. I like Alan for certain reasons because he's kind of opened up to some of the principles of the right. But there's a huge list of notaries in Hollywood as well. So if we have the Mueller report, if we're getting now to the bottom of the Russia, if we're getting to the bottom of Epstein, and also we start cleaning up the people behind Black Lives Matter, the riots and all the murder that occurred and the destruction that occurred, there are three big cleanouts that either we either take the high road, we're not a conservative country, but we're a noble country that has certain standards. Once again, in the kind of the theme of our last couple of shows is what is good and true? What is good and true? What are your timeless truths? What's internal?
I just want to make sure that we're not painting with too broad of a brush here. Because listen, if you're in the mafia and you've got a restaurant set up that's just a front, you still have to serve food. I'm sure that Epstein did have legit meetings on that island. I'm sure he did. You have to. I mean, there's other stuff going on, but I think I can see people going there and being, oh, I had no idea that was going on. I never went out to the pyramid. It's going to be that Ghislainemaxwell. She knows everything. Nothing can happen to her.
She knows she could die. She's definitely Epstein either committed suicide or died. Was murdered, right? So, obviously at that level, when you go silent, it's probably murder or it's suicide in order to avoid being murdered. So yeah. She's got that over. So apparently she's turning over a ton of evidence. Will this country hold itself accountable? That's the question. Or have we gone too far?
Oh, listen, when it comes out, everyone's going to grab a pitchfork because right, left, center, everybody can agree that you do not mess with kids. Who gets killed in prison? Child molesters. That's just across America. So yeah, when this comes out and the swamp starts getting drained, now we're in storm territory with Q. Right. It could all happen at the same time too. It literally could have the Durham report and Ghislaine coming out with like, hey, here's a VHS of Hillary Clinton and a pool boy. Like it's gonna get weird.
It's gonna get really weird, man. And the world is watching, sadly. So it's gonna be really interesting. Watch the international news lately. I'm actually watching mostly international news to get the American news. And you and Dana. That's about it. All right. So on that point, I think we were going to move to a couple more slides, but the bottom line is, if the media is turning a minimized eye to this, then at the same time, go ahead and give us the next slide. They're targeting Tucker. He's a mouthpiece every night, right? Now they're trying to put intimidation. We're going to put New York Times. We're going to put pictures of your house on here. They've already moved once. They're about to reveal another one of his homes. Then they're targeting. Suddenly, there's a series of sex scandals coming across Fox because they can't shut up the truth right now. This is so thematic that if you're having an argument with somebody who doesn't say, oh, there's been 7 kind of light coups against Trump from the very beginning, through impeachment to the hijacking of the riots to COVID manipulation, there's been 7 major movements of trying to remove him from office. So now what do? We attack the mouthpiece.
Yeah. Hit the next slide. I can't look at that Tucker photo anymore. Tucker looks like he's doing a bit. I watched his monologue the other night when he went after the New York Times. Yeah, Tucker in 2024. It's the top rated show, I think, on cable, and it beat a lot of network shows. Like, Tucker Carlson is a great communicator, and he is communicating about values that most people on the right say that they want and that they stand for. So he's hitting home run after home run after home run. And when the New York Times, this is really dangerous. When the New York Times, they know that his house was attacked. They know that his wife feared for her life. When they threatened to, now New York Times says they didn't do it. They said they didn't do it, but Tucker claims that he reached out, they wouldn't comment, blah 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 blah. So he's like, I'll tell America where your reporters live. We can both play this game. It's really not good.
Yeah,
And
that was
when and that is they're really trying to silence him. That was a threat. That's like something the mafia does. Hey, this is a nice restaurant. Too bad if something were to happen to it. That's what that was. They just went to Tucker. Hey, boy, you love your family, right? We might just have to let everybody know where you live, but you keep going with your show. Holy crap. And then the balls on Tucker Carlson. That was like a John Wayne move. Hey, Pilgrim, how about I let people know where you live? That was
yeah,
just wonderful and glorious and everything good. And I tell
yeah,
you, that's Nazi shit right there. That's
yeah.
Nazi. Don't talk or we'll get your family involved.
Well,
Woo!
and it's our First Amendment, and the media is being involved and targeted, which is a whole nother level. Because without targeting the media, you can't. All these other things can't work. This big deconstruction can't work without the media. So pivoting over, we're going to go to our slide. My book is coming out. We all know that. Mike Loftus, give us a few updates on what's happening in the Loftus world.
I'm still blowing up. The website, theloftusparty.com, it just, knock on wood, it just keeps growing and growing. Like the traffic just keeps, and so I'm very thankful. Thank you guys for going to loftusparty.com and listening to the podcast and subscribing to the YouTube channel and all that stuff. And then every once in a while on Mondays, I'm on this show, The Daily Briefing with Dana Perino.
Yeah, it's been great. Now, is that every Monday? Every Monday? Is it just ritual
Here,
or?
I got ripped off so bad 2 weeks ago. I'm like right here in front of, I'm getting ready to do my thing, and it's like you'll be on right after this commercial. They'll introduce you. Da 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 da. Hold on. Nope, the president's walking out. He's gonna take questions. Okay, enjoy the rest of your day.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I'll give him a call. I'll
Please
clean this up
do.
for you. You're welcome. You're welcome. This is Judd Dunning from Bullet Point.
This is
All
this
right.
is
Well,
New York Times best-selling author Judd Dunning.
your
You got
mouth to God's ears. I don't want to be a best-selling author and the book could do very well. I don't want to be it because I care about it. I really wrote this to try to touch a few Americans before the election. The fact that we're a crash title without being celebrities, they're pushing us in the market. Usually it's a year cycle is great. So your mouth to God's ears, man. May a few people read this book because we're trying to walk through the conversation of conservatism, which is thrown into such a simplified box. It is a beautiful way of life, man. It's a noble, good way of life. All right, so moving on to our wild card. All right, here we are. And I think this is one of your favorites, Michael. At least one of his songs is one of my favorites. Kanye West for president. No, okay. What do you think? What do you think?
Listen, I don't know how serious Kanye is about running. I'm fascinated by the guy. Like as a musician and as a creator and the whole thing, the whole Kanye thing. Now he has big ups and he has big downs and he's all points in between. I don't think he's serious about running. I think he waited too late. I don't even think he can get on the ballot in a lot of these states. But he did an event the other night, and it was beautiful. He broke down crying, talking about his feelings on abortion, and I guess Kim found out she was pregnant, and she was still in that little window where she could take the morning after pill, and she and Kanye thought about it. And Kanye's telling the story, and he breaks down in tears. He's like, "I almost killed my daughter. I almost killed my daughter." It was like one of the most powerful, raw, open, honest things I had seen in a long time. So then Twitter blows up. They're like, Kanye's crazy. He's crazy, which is so just demeaning. Like, oh, this person disagrees with me, so he's crazy. So Kanye, I guess Kim called him out, and his mother-in-law. They were talking about getting doctors in to see him. So Kanye, he heads off to their ranch in Wyoming, and then this morning he gets up and he's like, "I need help. I need a friend. I just need a friend to show up." And without skipping a beat, Dave Chappelle gets on a private jet, immediately flies to be with his buddy Kanye. And I just thought that was just another just incredibly beautiful moment that like Dave Chappelle, like a lot of people, you take a chance like that when you really get out there and you start talking about some honest, real shit that you feel, and people turn their back on you and they call you crazy. And then for Chappelle to show up, that's a class act, man. That is a good dude. God bless Kanye. God bless Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. Chappelle too. I mean, Chappelle came back from the brink, so he's been there, right? I mean, come on, Chappelle's blow up of his show was just like all time. Like, where's Chappelle? So yeah, he reached out. I think it's great. I have to say, Chappelle, even though he's been, he's shifted a couple times as kind of a centrist. I mean, he and Bill Burr last year were kind of the return of comedy. It was like high level comedy became somewhat centrist. It became fun to make fun of it. I think Dave is outside of the matrix of PC, and he's big enough to be able to do it. Kanye's original breakdown, there's a whole series of this too, is, he has his Christian beliefs, and and he went through everything that he went through with his mother. And I mean, he's a highly talented guy. The last album, not so much, but, but I'm a big fan. But, there is this ethic of materialism and sexism within the American rap scene that he tapped out on. I mean, he went into his gospel stuff. He lives up by my friend. They're doing all this gospel series. He's connected to God, but apparently it's pretty dark in hip hop. I mean, there's some like pretty heavy sex rituals. Some of it are male on male. I mean, once you're in, there's a lot of issues. There's some tie-ins into rap music and prison, incarceration, and money. There's a whole heavy scene behind American rap. And where did the scene go? It went to like extreme materialism, extreme like sexualizing of women. I mean, I like the music a lot. Don't get me wrong, but the thematic where you have to go to succeed and the wars and the competition. And he tapped out, man. I think he's a really great guy. And you know what? Right after he tapped out and he kind of came back, as a conservative.
Yeah.
There's something about like when you get close to God, man, you get close to things that aren't temporal, right? He turned a corner.
It's really weird, and somebody should make a list of all the very successful people who all of a sudden just tapped out. Like Kanye, super successful, then taps out. Dave Chappelle, another one, super successful, and then taps out. Chris Tucker, remember, he was on top, just tapped out. Like, what is up with that? Why do these people, and there's a bunch of them, we should get a list together. That'd be a good, we should do a show on that. People,
Yeah.
really successful people who have they just tap out. They're like, no, no more. What happens? What do they see? What do they go through? What challenges do they have, like emotionally, spiritually, mentally, where they're like, it's not worth it anymore. It's not worth it. My life, my heart, my soul, I'm not going to do it. You guys enjoy.
Yeah, I think like half of them just wanted to stop dieting, right? We don't have to cover that group. Like I just wanted to eat, Marlon Brando, a number of people. All right, so here we are at the end of the wild card. Thanks for coming again, Michael Loftus. Once again, we're here in Bullet Points trying to talk about not only what's going on in the news, but what's not being said about and talked about in the news. Always great to have you here, buddy. Take us home, Michael Loftus.
If you don't subscribe to Bullet Points and tell your friends about it, your life will not be as full as it should be. So hit like, hit subscribe, leave a comment, share it, let people know. Bullet Points Nation, we just keep growing.
Thank you.